and then you wanted to talk about ad hoc committees?
Well, we'll talk, so we'll start with my report and then we'll dive into that. So my apologies to the commission for not being at your meeting last month. Unfortunately, that was I was previously scheduled before I knew I was your staff, that I was going to be out of town. So a couple updates. The Neighborhood Services and Education Committee, as I mentioned, would like to hear from you. And so that's, we're putting you on their work plan for the update in April. And then that, of course, goes with their minutes onto the City Council. Two of the issues that you've worked on in the past will be having items coming before council, and in one case planning commission, in probably before your next meeting. Medical marijuana, which I also work on, is coming back to council on December 1st. The agenda for that meeting will be posted on Friday. And this is just, we're at the point where almost all of the collectives are through the registration process. So there will be a detailed staff report with some recommended changes to the ordinance. Some of them responding to requests from industry. Some things that we found as we've been implementing the process. So that will be on the council agenda December 1st. The issue of outdoor vending on public and private property. The private property piece of that, specifically with fruits and vegetables vendors, and then some private property changes in general will be coming to Planning Commission next month. I don't have the specific date in front of me, but and then it will go to council in January. So those are the two issues that are ones you've dealt with in the past that are seeing the community outreach to this commission is now finally getting to the council point. So a quick update about the work plan, which I would have updated you last month, and we would have had a little more robust discussion had I been here. So as you remember, the commission directed the chair and vice chair to work with staff to finalize the work plan and get it passed and get it through rules in the council. As we were going through that process, and unfortunately I came in at the 11th hour and didn't have quite the knowledge at that September meeting that I have today. So there were some things that were in process as you were developing your work plan where perhaps you should have gotten some better guidance from staff. And that is about the role of ad hoc committees. So in working with our attorneys and with the deputy city manager who oversees neighborhood services and the assistant city manager, I've learned quite a lot about ad hoc committees. They are allowed, but they should be rare. And they really should be limited in time and scope, and they should not require any staff assistance from commission staff or other city staff. An ad hoc committee truly is ad hoc, like what you just talked about with the caucus process. Now with that, because that does take a lot of staff work, I will actually be helping you because I need to help you work this. And our attorneys will be reviewing it. But as far as working with other city departments and so forth, and then the really important thing about the ad hoc committees is that they cannot and must not be used as a means to conduct commission business outside of the public eye. And so when you appoint a committee to go work on a policy issue, whether it's illegal fireworks or homelessness, and that committee goes away and is working in a room together with behind closed doors, it's not a public meeting, that's not really the whole purpose of the Neighborhoods Commission, is to increase public access and outreach to City Hall. So, where in your own neighborhood associations or nonprofits you work with, in your own work life, in the private sector, you frequently will have committees and task forces. That's a quirk of government and sunshine and transparency that we're supposed to do the work in the open. That may mean some of the things that are on your work plan need to be on more than one agenda, and there may need to be a lot of back and forth and some messy discussions. Individual commissioners may need to do more homework ahead of time if they are really invested in an issue and want to do some research. But those ad hoc committees around the policy areas, so that's the things like illegal fireworks and public safety, and homelessness, which was approved prior to the work plan being approved, and so everyone kind of said they'd let that committee slide, but it really should never have been on the work plan either. That's kind of the way it works. When it's something that's commission business or processes, procedures, the caucus process, for example, the work that David and Nicole did, those kinds of things, that's a great use of the ad hoc committees. So hopefully that gives you a little better overview, my hope is that working together, we can work in a way that the commission will know that an item is on the agenda and go out to the community yourselves, out to your district neighborhoods, and make sure people know what's on our agenda, that we're going to have, a discussion of whatever the hot topic is of the night, and encourage increased community engagement so that the community conversation isn't just happening around the table with the appointed commissioners, but is a broader, or that you're bringing back stuff from your own neighborhoods prior to the meeting. So I hope that's helpful. The other thing we can do to increase community engagement going forward, and we've done it sometimes in the past, is we don't have to meet at City Hall. As we're planning our schedule for the year ahead, we can hold commission meetings out in the districts. The only challenge with that is we're not going to have all the technology necessarily. But as you saw tonight, there was a video we wanted to show, and our old laptop didn't work. So, so we can do more to be out in the community too, if that's something that the commission so desires. So that's kind of a little bit of background on ad hoc committees and the work plan.
And this is based on the Brown Act? Is this somebody's interpretation of the Brown Act?
It's a combination of the Brown Act and the city's sunshine policies, and then the brutal reality that we are not staffed to make those ad hoc committees public meetings, and noticed. So if you had a committee that wanted to work on an issue, and this whole issue of wanting to do the commission's business in public, we just don't have the staffing for the commission to be holding multiple meetings through the month with, that are publicly noticed and meeting all of those notices.
I understand staffing, I understand everything else. I also understand how to get things done. And I just find it very troubling that, like in the case of what we just talked about, the caucus, even as part of the UAS study we did, which was based on some ad hoc stuff in the beginning. I understand your resources. I understand also that I don't need staff to do a lot of things. 2 or 3 people can get together, pull some material together to make a presentation at a commission meeting. I don't see why that falls into this transparency thing, open government and all that.
So the commission,
I'm sorry.
with all due respect, Commissioner, the commission, The Brown Act and transparency don't always intersect neatly with getting things done. You know, the way I've worked when I've worked in the nonprofit sector is through consensus building, or I might have a team that's supposed to go do something. But that work, this commission is appointed, you are a public body, and public bodies have responsibility to do your work in public. It's not easy, and it can be messy, and it can take a lot of time, but that's the requirement of a public body.
So I was asking you offline, but I'll ask again right now publicly. City councils, they often come up with the blue memos the day of or a few days beforehand, or a few people, less than a quorum of the council will write together and come up with a suggestion. So, I mean, several people here got together and drafted on their own without any staff involvement, recommendations on lessons learned or community outreach. I mean, your memo that you worked on with Nicole. Then no decision was made. It was a suggestion. All the discussion happened here. So that's what the ad hoc committee
No,
had in mind.
so there's a difference between when a public body appoints a committee and when a couple people get together and team up on a policy matter. So that's, you know, if you keep in mind the council committees are public meetings with agendas and staff and so forth. So that's one piece of it. The council, an item that goes to council that has a blue memo that's released on a Friday, and again, keep in mind those blue memos come out, they have sunshine requirements. The council has a deadline. If it has more than one signature on a memo, it has to be released by Friday at the end of day prior to the council meeting. If it has only a single signature, it can come out up to the day of the meeting. That's in the sunshine ordinance for the city. So could a group of commissioners get together and say tonight have written their thoughts on illegal fireworks for submission to the commission as a whole? Yes, but you would have needed to submit them to staff as a group in time to meet the sunshine requirements for posting. It couldn't be, you know, just handed out at the meeting. But again, we're talking about ad hoc committees that are appointed, and I don't want to discourage you, but you know, this is the job of the commission is to do the commission's business in public. If you are going to be talking about issues that impact the neighborhood should have an opportunity to be a part of that discussion.
You know what I'm wondering about? I'm wondering how stagnant will we become if every single issue we discuss as a commission, no matter how small it is, we have to call a special neighborhood commission, a special meeting to get public input. Why couldn't this not be disclosed or posted on our site that there is a specific ad hoc and tell the public they can come? It looks, it's just, I have not been here anywhere near as long as a lot of these people, but it looks to me that the little trivial
a public meeting,
picking, I'm wondering what we're going to get done.
A public meeting, if an ad hoc committee is a public meeting, it requires, there are multiple requirements that a lot of it you guys don't see because staff just handles it, but that's because, and that requires staffing. And so staffing is not available to do that, to turn those ad hoc committees into public meetings. I think what is important to note is you can do that business here at your regular monthly meetings. That's what the commission meetings are for. What do you got?
Okay. Go ahead.
You've had to think about that.
Well, I want to ask a question too.
Regarding the work plan, the subjects, and and dealing with them in public here. In the work process document that we put together, there were examples of a memo to city neighborhood commissions, and that three or four people could get together on a subject that is on the work plan, develop information and knowledge about that, and some kind of position, 2, 3, or 4 people, and draft in a format, in a proper format, a letter to the neighborhood commission as commissioners, well in advance of that being agendized and presented, so that people could speak to it, the commission could discuss it, and action could be taken without being appointed as a ad hoc committee. Is this correct?
I believe it is, but again, keep in mind the work process document has not been vetted with our legal counsel.
Right.
So that's something that I need to do if we're going to use it. But yes,
But
I
independent
believe-
of the process document,
right.
could a few members of the commission draft a memo
Mhm.
with the standard format that the
Right.
city uses and council people use
Mhm.
in pairs, 3 or 4, and present
Or they
that
could
well in
write it on
advance?
letterhead.
Pardon?
They could write it on their personal letterhead,
Sure they could.
whatever they wanted. Yes, they would
But
just
that's
have
not
to
an
be-
ad hoc committee, correct?
No, if they're meeting at Starbucks.
Then
and
why would it be
they're-
an ad hoc committee for this group?
An ad hoc committee in the work plan was, the originally envisioned was appointed with a task to do, and the policy discussion was going to happen behind closed doors.
Then could we unwind that language and act like 3 councilmen over here submitting a memo on a review of the 2040 plan versus 2 council members over here submitting another memo on the review of to the council on the review of the 2040 plan?
If it happens organically, yes.
Organically, could you define?
I'm not an attorney, but,
So I think I see what we did wrong with our work plan was we said we do not have enough time to fit everything in, therefore we were have the subcommittee work on it and come back.
We can
with the
unwind that
answer.
language.
So that part we have to undo, so where we had tried to say, we're trying to do 10 items in a 5-item day, we tried to put 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag, okay? And we tried to do it by having it work, divvying it out, subdividing, splitting the task, many hands make it light work, or whatever, doing that. We
So
can't
back to
do
the
that.
back to
But we can
language.
have,
Organic means
we can have people come up with ideas. So if I had a great idea, hey, let me get together with 2 or 3 of us, work out something and make a presentation to us. It cannot be assigned to us as a task to work this thing out, but if we come up with something, we can present it here.
you
So-
submit it to staff
A
and the
week in
commission.
advance so that
well
you
in
can
advance.
post it on the
For
website so the
consideration.
public has a chance to see it and
Correct.
review it. So I think that's the distinction. You cannot,
I think we have to understand process.
right, and I understand that the commission has been perhaps lacking in process, lacking in work plans historically, and I'm trying to create discipline and transparency and compliance with all of these things. And this is something that is happening with commissions all over the city. So, so as an example, you know, the mayor's budget office is scheduled to be on the January agenda to start off the budget. If you as a commissioner wanted to write a letter to your fellow commissioners saying, these are lessons learned from the past, that from my perspective that we need to take into account as we discuss this, and you provide it to staff with ample time to post it.
Could 3 of us do that?
3 of you get together and decide to do that, that's okay. Just make sure that when 3 of you get together to talk about it, you all are in agreement and you're not creating a daisy chain of conversation. So if the 3 of you commissioners here are going to be meeting and talking about it, you all agree you're not gonna then be talking also to, you know, the three of you talking to 3 different, and then we create a Brown Act problem.
And that was why I thought that we'd want to be the chair to assure that who was on these groups beforehand, just to avoid having that thing. So, right, so you're saying I can't say, you 3 go off and work on something, but if those 3 decide to go off and work on it on their own, but that's okay, but, because they're not directed to do it. But without any organization, you don't know who else they might get involved with it. I'm getting
It's up
confused
to
here.
them.
It can be brought up at a meeting and you can say, you know, well, some of us are gonna meet over here at the end of the meeting and decide.
Well, no, I want to caution you from getting too, you know, again, the discussion should be happening at this table. So the public can hear and they can engage with it. It's great if somebody who's been on the commission for a long time wants to share some perspective and so forth, and that's, every commissioner should bring their neighborhood experience to the table and so forth. But again, try to remember it needs to be a conversation with the public.
Okay, so publicly notified several months ago was the topics that we wanted to work on and people who said they were interested in working on it. So that information is public knowledge, and so without assigning any subtasks, look at your meeting and see if you said you were interested in it.
I'm not going to comment on that. I think, Chair, I think it would be behoove us, since we have 1 minute left,
Yeah.
perhaps to move on to what's on the January 12th
Oh, yes,
meeting.
yes.
When you get done with that, I'd like to revisit the caucus issue. Go ahead and do what you want to do, and then let's come back to that.
So, let's see, so I didn't say anything, I didn't mean to imply anything illegal, I was just saying people have expressed interest in certain topics, you know what, they know what you're interested in. I mean, I'm interested in, my interest. So anyhow, it's very confusing on this thing, though.